Welcome to Istanbul Aydın University Blockchain Talks. Before I announce our speaker today, esteemed speaker, I would like to announce his title of his speech. It is Decentralized Token-Based Decision-Making in Complex Ecosystems. As you know, we had complex ecosystems last week about the timing. Therefore, we adjourned our webinar for today. So our today's speakers is, as you see, George Achillias. He is the partner at FindAtAnalytics. He is a very busy person, but we are very glad due to our good relation, he accepted to be on our webinar today. So I would like not to steal more time from his valuable talk. So I give the floor to him. George, you are.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. Apologies for last week. I had forgotten that Turkey has switched to GMT+3 some years ago. I had always the impression that they have the GMT+2. My mistake, childish mistake. It's an honor to be here among you. It's an honor to talk about what I think is a very critical and very important subject. And at the same time, I feel very, very honored to be among you. I struggle to find out how I'm going to share my screen. Apologies for this. If you don't share screen, yeah, I just found it. So I have prepared the presentation for you where we can explore together. I don't know. Can you see it? Can you see my screen?
Yes, it is started.
Okay. So I'll tell you a little bit some things about me. I'm George Achillias. I have more than 23 years of experience, and my experience is across various areas of the spectrum of business value. My biggest gift or skill is to deliver growth from 10 to 10,000 people and from less than 100K in value to 1 billion in value. I have worked with companies like Cognizant, Elite, Wipro, Dentsu, and MyShare. And my flagship projects, if you allow me to say something like that, is everything had to do with the Formula One team, where I was responsible to redesign how a Formula One team has to work. At the same time, I led the digital transformation of LBC. LBC is the biggest oil and refinery in the Netherlands of BP, and I led this digital strategy for Lego for 2 years. I hold a nuclear physics from a bachelor from University of Patras. And my whole interest is all about how we make sure that we have the proper understanding of the world that we are going into it, because we discover more and more situations where we start talking about what token is or how we can have the right token for the right situation, how we make sure that we have the right context for our tokens. And I would like to build up a little bit the stage before I proceed to how I see the design of tokens can help us make better decisions. So the whole thing about tokens, and probably you know that better than me, was all about how we're going to describe cryptocurrencies. It was Bitcoin and Ethereum, but we had even more as time goes by and cryptocurrencies became more popular. The second one was to describe specific digital assets when it comes to run above blockchain infrastructure, and how at the same time we can have more decentralized finance tokens to do, how we can build an ecosystem where tokens will play a significant role, not only as something that we give or take, something we count in order to estimate the value, but something as a key to a centralized finance ecosystem. And last but not least, that we suddenly realize that tokens have a huge range of potential functions in a world based on blockchain, where we start going about how we're going to exchange value, but also how we're going to trade value in a world that everything changes constantly. And if you allow me to say this, we go to a thing that we see the whole situation that we have different kind of tokens, different kind of tokenization. We have tokenization in platforms where we see how the whole thing works when it comes to elements of tokenizing the blockchain infrastructure, we have the support of the creation of decentralized applications. One of the most well-known examples of platform tokenization is DAI, which might help smart contract transactions. And to strengthen security and facilitate transactions, platform tokenization uses the blockchain network, which acts as a network base. At the same time, we have the governance tokenized. And the governance tokenized is all about how we make sure that we have the right infrastructure in place and the right keys to not only making sure that we take the right understanding of how we govern the tokens, but also how we have the normal legal aspect to that. And last but not least, we have the utility tokenization, which is all about making sure that we understand in details how the whole transactions will take place. Based on that, we go to the next slide where we start talking about the areas that we have tokenization. And we have it in decentralization, where it enables the creation of digital assets of blockchain platforms, allowing it for decentralized ecosystems without the need of interference. Then we go to the finance investments, where it's all about how the whole thing is going to work when it comes to understanding the importance of exchange in financial assets. Last but not least, we go to a thing that we need to understand, the smart contracts and automation. And this is important because at the same time, we make sure that the most important element that we have to face is about how we make secure transactions. One of the most critical elements that we have to see is the supply chain management, where tokens play a significant element when we start talking about how we can introduce sustainability supply chain management and how we make sure that we have the right token in place in order to identify the transaction and making sure that we have the right thing about the supply chain we want to have in place. Digital identity, the more complex the world comes, the more we need a token capable to identify ourselves in a unique way when it comes to start many deep fakes or when we start to have multiple identities. In modern societies requires for us to use more and more our digital entity in order to vote, to participate, to making sure that we have the right understanding of the whole infrastructure. And last but not least, that the whole element is about how the whole thing is going to work and how we make sure that we have an ecosystem capable not only to understand us, but also to work in a specific way to deliver value for us. And then we have what we call decentralized applications, where decentralized applications use tokens not only to incentivize users to participate in their ecosystems, but also users start earning tokens for contributing resources or providing service within the application. And this is something extremely interesting. So if we start from the term token, how the whole thing started, the whole token economy is a system of incentives. We have to give something or we have to achieve something in order to get something. It's all about how we connect the design, how we connect behaviors and how we make sure that our digital behavior or the system behavior is aligned with what the platform is expecting for us. And this is critical because tokens is not a new phenomenon. We took something very, very old and very, very fundamental, and we apply it to a new digital infrastructure ecosystem. We know tokens, we had that from the shells, casino chips, and royalty programs. But now, with the blockchain technology, we can start having even more capabilities, and we can have incentives coming from very complex infrastructure ecosystems, and we can. The most critical element that we can have, we can add efficiency and security when it comes to how we use a token and the importance of a token in a system. And this is important because suddenly we can create very complex and very delicate and very rigid infrastructure where everything has to do about the value we create and the value we gather, the value we create and how we measure the value we create, how we make sure that we have the right understanding of what we create. And that's important because we can categorize the tokens into simple and complex systems. Simple tokens mainly require a legal engineer, representing pre-existing assets or access rights. So the simple tokens is all about how we transform the old analog world into something digital. But on the other side, on the other hand, complex tokens or purpose-driven tokens require economic reengineering. And this is where we start seeing the maximum benefits of the whole thing. It's where we start seeing how we can actually do things in a much better and a much different way. And at the same time, how we can start taking decisions in a much more complex ecosystems where our knowledge is required not only in one aspect or in one context, but at the same time, how we can have various points of truth that we can combine them in order to have the right decision based on a token that we hold. And at the same time, how we can make sure that we make the right decision within a network of untrusted actors, steering individual actions toward collective objectives. And this is very, very critical because we go to the point that we need to understand the 4 and the 5 major dimensions of tokens. And these are, what is the technical layer of each token that we put in place? What is the purpose? What is the underlying value? And this is important. The utility that we're going to use it and the legal suspect and aspect of this. And all this, because at the end of the day, what it is critical for us is to making sure that our tokens not only serve a specific purpose, but are well connected to what actually we try to achieve through the infrastructure we put in place. And that, because at the end of the day, everything has to do about how we deliver not only value, but also how we design the token in the most perfect way, so we make sure that it's aligned with the purpose of the ecosystem. And if you allow me to say that, we need to set up some definitions. Please feel free to correct me, to interrupt me if you have any questions or anything like that. So the first definition I like to put under your consideration is what we mean when we say protocols. Protocol for us is a system of logic that coordinates exchange between suppliers and consumers of service, based on rules written into the code. So for us, it's really important to understand and map always the protocols that defines the interaction of value between consumers and suppliers of value. Token, at this time, for us, the token is a unit of value that is universally recognized, and is really important to make sure that is the same point of truth for all the stakeholders. And all the tokens are designed to do different things. Tokens are codes, and such can be programmed to do nearly anything a creator dreams up. And last but not least, we have to have a definition of what we mean when we are talking about decentralized autonomous organizations. Decentralized organizations are groups organized around a mission that coordinates through a set of rules. So for us, it's all about how we run specific team of teams having their own tools, but at the same time, they have a specific mission to deliver. And this is critical because suddenly we start talking about how the tokens can affect business ecosystems, how we make sure that we have companies and protocols at the same place, how we can make sure that we coordinate human and financial capital to accomplish specific goals. And at the same time, how tokens can be functioned as an equity in a company, and what that means by owning a token within an organization, what kind of value you hold, and how much power you have with the moment you hold this token. And the last but not least, when a token functions like a token of gratitude, what that actually symbolizes and what actually this has to deliver with the whole thing of delivering value. And in order to do that, we have to define to answer 2 major questions. What is the token's purpose, and what are the priorities when we design a token and when we make the token a fundamental element of a decision-making mechanism? How we make sure that we have a real-time connection between the purpose and the value? How we make sure that we understand clearly what actually we try to achieve? And the last but not least, holding a token, what actually is our purpose and the role within a complex ecosystem? How we make sure that holding a token is not just holding a value, but at the same time, we deliver something according to the rules of the ecosystem. And this is critical because now we have to start designing tokens based on how we can have the best alignment between value accrual in the system and value accrual in the token. The moment we have a misalignment is the moment we start missing value, is the moment we start missing what we try to achieve. And the last but not least is the moment we start missing what actually we try to achieve, which is engage more people and make more people contribute to actually what we have delivered. And remember, protocols is about what we give, what we take. Now we start talking about protocols as companies. The companies, we know that companies and organizations all around the world is all about how they're going to give value using something that actually the users can provide. For a company like Meta or Twitter, the core asset of the user data and the algorithm is able to surface the right content for the higher conversion. And at the same time, investors on Twitter are taking initiatives to value protocols similarly. It's the most important element, how we make sure that we have the right mapping about what we have created and what is the most important element for us in order to not only understand the purpose of the company, but also how we value this in a token-based approach. And governance is where the analogy breaks down most clearly. Corporate governance and protocol governance are very different. And this is because we see a shift from something physical and very easy to measure to something that is actually much more complex and actually much more value generating element in an organization. We can see that the moment we shift from the paradigm of the companies running as an organization to actually running protocols for the companies, we see that we have much more complex stakeholders, and at the same time, we have more freedom to deliver value. We have more understanding what the mission of the organization is. And the last but not least, we start creating something critical, which is all about how we can make sure that we execute better, faster, and we deliver the value our stakeholders need. And why this matters? Because we can see that the higher the S-curve goes, and this is critical, is the higher the curve go, the harder it is to keep the value for our users, for our people, for our consumers. And this, for instance, if more people start using our platform, which is how we attract people, suddenly we extract value and we start feeling that these people are going to compete with us. And at the same time, we see that the moment we start having a collaboration about how the platform works or how we can exchange value within an organization, suddenly we can see that we have people creating actually something that is capable to compete with us and making sure that we don't want this, because at the end of the day, we're going to miss not only the value that we create, but also we're going to increase the competition when it comes to this. Tokens, at the same time, we can create, they can help us to capture value much better. So we can see that, and we can see that a token thing is all about making sure that in Web3 is all the connections and content are open and available for everyone to build on top of it. So we give the opportunity to create much more elements of value within an organization when it starts behaving as a protocol. And at the same time, we see that the most important element is the token element, and how we start exchanging information within among organizations or among consumers and users of a platform becomes critical for a token, becomes critical for token holders, in order to make sure that we always lay on how we build value and how we capture value. And this is critical because suddenly we realize that tokens are not an element of an ecosystem, but a driving force. And driving force that we mean that when we start combining applications and protocols, we have superpowers to not only boost our productivity, but also boost the way we navigate through a very complicated ecosystem, because we can give much more elements about how we create value and how we can deliver innovation faster. So in a healthier ecosystem, as we just see, it's much fast pace. We're going to have a much fast pace to deliver value, but it's going to be extremely hard to extract profits. And what that means, we aim for a bigger size, healthier ecosystem instead of having a fragmented one where innovation is stalled and value is captured among few players. But at the same time, tokens give us our capability to not only create value and innovation faster, but also to make sure that we have the best possible understanding when it comes to why we want to do that. And in order to go to the next stage, in order to capitalize protocols and create the value, we have the crypto assets. In Web3, in theory, we create more value by making easier for applications to build on top of open protocols and databases. So the more value we capture, the more value we capture through the token, the more easier it is to create not only more platforms, but also to share value with builders and users, building token-powered network effects. And this is critical and very important because at the end of the day, we have the wave expansion theory, where by having something in place and by using the tokens in a way that we can expand and expand and making the value going faster through the extraction point, it means that we can attract more people to create value within our ecosystems, and of course to start making decisions in a much more efficient way. So it's the same like the companies, how we can create a coordinated centralized of groups of users, owners, contributors, and voters, where we can have a protocol about how we can deliver according to the same mission, using a token as a force to design things better, faster, and to exchange value in a more efficient way. Now, the other analogy I like to use is the protocols as countries. The blockchain protocol establishes the constitution and the governing laws of the nation state, while the participating actors in the network are citizens of the network. Suddenly, a complex ecosystem as a country becomes a protocol. And it's quite interesting because we see that everything becomes a tokenized and token-based exchange of value. The more we give, the more we take, and at the same time, based on the we can step up on the platform and the value the state give us, so we can start creating more stuff. In order to facilitate this and making sure that everything we create is identified as our own work, we need tokens. And at the same time, how we make everything secure when it comes to exchange of information and exchange of value becomes critical for the having tokens in place. And now on this table, we can see the analogy between the typical and the old approach and how we shift everything when we start using protocols as a countries. And we can see that the governance model goes from something autocracy, oligarchy, and democracy to one token, one vote, point of value, point of scope, stacking weighted voting. And at the same time, we can see that suddenly we're not talking about constitution, but for us, the reference point is smart contracts, because it's the one value point that we can always have as a reference point and point of truth. And when it comes to identity, we no longer need IDs or passports or IENs, but what really matters is here our unique IP address, our tokens holder address, and how we have all connected in place. And this is critical because we start creating value for the ecosystem, and we start talking about the durability of belonging to underlying ecosystem. How we, having the right document, can make designing the right tokens and being part of the protocols we have just described can make us want to be part of the ecosystem. And at the same time, how a token can be an intrinsic utility within the ecosystem. How we make sure that we have the most valuable interaction within the network. And the last but not least, that the tokens and the way we design them is a force when it comes to design more complex ecosystem, and at the same time force ourselves and the stakeholders to take the right decisions. And this is a very good finding, because suddenly we start talking about elements that are capable to coordinate various players in different areas to make the right decisions when it comes to not only how we combine assets, but also how we have the right supply strategy in place. And last but not least, what are the drivers for that? How we make sure that we have an alignment between the drivers and the underlying value. How we make sure that we have a strategy capable to utilize not only the assets we have, but also the value of this. And we go to the next step, which is how the value creation is combined with tokens. Without a clear understanding of how the ecosystem produces and captures value, it becomes almost impossible to align the capital allocation strategy with what creates a long-term successful and resilient ecosystem. And this is very important to underline it, that the tokens is constantly and to redesign a platform, to redesign an ecosystem. And that's, apologies for this, and that is all about how we make sure that we have not only the right offering, not only the right mechanism to make decisions within the complex ecosystem, but also how we constantly redesign our tokens and what our governance model is and what our tokens means for our ecosystem in order to constantly and continuously, without breaks, we're going to capture the capital allocation. We're going to capture the value of the ecosystem aligned with the capital allocation. We are living in a world where we have massive investments into technology, but most of the time we don't see how these produce the value that we expect to use because the tokens we have based on the infrastructure we have put in place are not well designed to capture the value. And at the same time, are not well aligned with the purpose we have, which is to make the right decisions for not only the people who create the value, but also the people who extract value from the ecosystem. And in that point, I would like to share two examples with you, based on how well they have designed tokens in the world of creating, sharing, and extracting value, and also making the right decisions for their users. One of these examples is the Brain Trust. Brain Trust is a user-owned talent network where it's all about how we can use a token-based approach to not only have the right protocol in place, but also to making sure that we have the right people participating in the network, how we make sure that we have the right incentives and at the same time the right decision-making mechanism for the platform as a protocol to address the needs for the users while we create value for them. And the last but not least, how we can shift using tokens from a traditional talent network to actually a much more dynamic, which is always incentivized about making the right decision about the connection we're going to make. The result is a massive growth for the organization. And that because we have tokens designed not only to allow the users to make the right decisions, but based on the blockchain infrastructure in place to have the right identification when it comes to value is being created and the value is being expected for them. And this is critical because suddenly a token-based approach and the token-based decision-making economy help us not only to make sure that we allocate the talent in the most appropriate way, but also we deliver the growth and the value for the organization as a protocol we just said. And the other example that I would like to share with you is a platform, and it's called Steppen. It's a move to earn a platform that is all about the more you work, the more benefits you win. And suddenly you become a user of a platform that identifies you through tokens that you get from the more you use the platform and the more you compete with other value creators within the ecosystem. And this is critical because not only they encourage specific behavior, but at the same time, they make sure that we have the right understanding of what we give, what we get, and how our token that we have make us unique when it comes to extract value from the ecosystem because we have achieved specific goals. So, and to wrap up, the whole thing about having well-designed tokens in a complex world not only allows us to make us the right decision, but at the same time accelerates the way we deliver value to the world. And at the same time, which is the most critical element, give us the tools, token-based approach to extract and catch the value from a token-based ecosystem, in a much more efficient way. So a useful way to thinking about designing token economies is about how we're going to create an economic and governance model that currently exists with additional features made possible by programmable money, code-based laws, and enforcement and compatibility. And what that means is how we make sure that all the critical elements of the infrastructure we have now in place are capable not only to get reprogrammed ad hoc, but also to make sure that they adapt to the expectations of the users, stakeholders, and making sure that always we have the right outcome for the decision we have to take at this specific time. So thank you very much, and I really appreciate your time, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you, George. I will ask to the floor whether there are any questions will be raised. Not. So I think
either they didn't understand a lot or it was a good one.
No, I think our people, our students, our followers, participants are clever enough to understand. I
That's good.
think you touch all the points, really necessary points, also by explaining what is the token, which makes a lot of complex understanding in at many fields, still at every level. So it's good that we had a better explanation, really, what is token. Anyhow, we are very thankful for your time. We are very
Appreciate.
thankful that you share your knowledge with us. So we come to an end of our today's Istanbul Aydın University Blockchain Talks webinar, which was decentralized token-based decision making in complex ecosystem. So as you see, George Achillias could come out of these complex ecosystems easily, and also taught us how we could manage to. Thank you very much. Till next time. Thank you, Achilles, George Achilles. Thank you for listening to us. All the
Thank you
best.
so much. It was an honor. I really appreciate it. Apologies for last week, and always at your disposal, Erol, for you everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's very kind of you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.